is up, guys? Welcome to the latest installment on the Project Drift Z build. We are, as you've seen in the intro, loaded the car up and we are off to Kewfab today because it is going for the cage. We took the windscreen out off camera because I knew it was going to be a pain in the backside for a person on their own to do it. I just did it off camera. We're all ready for Kewfab to do his magic now, so we're getting across there now. Once we're over there, we're going to sit down, break down stuff with him and go through what needs to be done on the cage, and then Kewfab will then be taking over the camera for a little bit, and obviously he'll document what he can as he can. I'm not expecting him to do loads. At the end of the day, he's not a content creator. His job is to fabricate and do the cage. So yeah, it'll be a case of he'll document what he can when he can, and I'll just go from there and then update you guys once I go back. But yeah, gonna get across there now. Ian's currently got the car in front of me on his trailer. I'm in mine, and yeah, we'll see you guys over there. Well, after a little trip down the motorway, the car is now at Kewfab, so we've just been speaking with him at the moment and going through the plan of the car, but just going to give you a little sneak peek of what's in the workshop at the moment. So that's actually his car he owns, and that is going drifting tomorrow. Unlike that thing. But just been chalking away, designing the cage and everything, so to give you guys bit more of an insight on what we're doing. Obviously my seating position is in there. It might need to change slightly just because of the main hoop. We're going to be running door bars, double door bars, which will be coming up to here as well, and then the inner door bar will go along and just match up with the sill. Nice and easy. Basically all usual stuff at the front. We're going to be running the gussets down the windows as well, and then the X-frame across the back, and because we kept the brace in, he's just going to actually weld up to that and then put a harness bar in everything. So he's going to have the car for really he's going to have the car for a couple of weeks and get this all done, and he's going to document it himself. So in a minute I'll obviously get him on camera and have a quick chat with him on camera. But yeah, this is the last time I'll see the car without a cage for a couple of weeks. Drag Mr. Kewfab away from prepping his own cars for tomorrow. Like I say, that's his 46 over there that he's going to be drifting tomorrow at Three Sisters, looking to gain a competition drift license as well. So hopefully, yeah. So obviously I was just letting the watchers into a little bit of information on obviously my vague information on obviously about the cage, but if you want to run through it for us.
Yeah, so obviously we're going to do a 6-point cage. Obviously the seat's quite far back, so we're going to have a little look at the main hoop position, just try and make sure you've got plenty of space, nothing sort of in your way. So we're doing like main hoop, your front legs coming over, back stays, X in the back, harness bar wherever's going to be best for where your seat is, and then we're going to kink the door bars out and try and give as much space as possible, and then obviously some nice 8-pillar gussets, nice dimple down 8-pillar gussets, and yeah, should be all nice and pretty. Obviously we'll stitch weld it wherever it touches along the roof line and things like that, so it'll be nice and solid. Yeah, and hopefully it'll be all nice.
Sweet. And obviously this cage will be rated for competition in the UK, and potentially with a couple of adaptations maybe into Europe.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want any roll cages done and you're around the north, even if you want to travel a bit further, make sure you get onto Kewfab. I'll put his link in the description. But yeah, from now on he's going to be taking over the camera, and it'll be a couple of phone clips. I'll just make sure he films them the right way up.
So first things first sort of obstacle to overcome is the seating position. Obviously car's quite tall, so the seat position's quite low and quite far back. These are actually really small cars too, so there's quite a squeeze in these. So what we need to do is first off try and figure out best place, best position for the main hoop. Whether that's up here where I'd normally do them, but that means it's going to be sort of coming down here. So like, bearing in mind when you've got your helmet on, it's going to be much tighter with a roll cage than without. The other option is go slightly further back along here, and that just means it'll have to come a bit sort of wider out there, and then the front leg will probably have to sort of kink in there, but then I don't know whether that's going to sort of be too tight for the front leg coming down here. So I'm just going to have a little look and work out what's going to be the best option, and then we'll go from there. Right, so this is our sort of bend template. This is what I use for referencing like the start of the bends on the tube bender die, so that I basically measure up to this point, and that's always the same reference for me. But these are also quite handy for just sort of putting in place and having a little look, figuring out where we can go, where the bend's going to sit, obviously with the radius and things like that. So we'll have a little play about with this. Because normally I'd quite like to go up here, but it just depends sort of how tight we're going to be when he's in the car. So we can go behind, which is an option, but it just means the main hoop's going to be lower than I'd sort of like it to be. One thing I always ask for when people bring a car to me for a roll cage is that you have your driver's seat in your driving position. Now Kai has said that we can probably move the seat slightly. Obviously I'd really like to put the main hoop up here, so it's sort of as high as it can be, rather than down here, where it's going to be a little bit lower. But yeah, obviously when you're building a roll cage, you want the cage essentially to be built around your seating position, so it's tailored to where you're sat and things like that, so you're not bumping your head on the cage. You want basically as much room as you can keep in the car, but also having a roll cage. So yeah, what I might potentially do is make a main hoop that runs up here like I'd normally do them, and then maybe get Kai to pop down with his helmet and just sit in, make sure there's enough space. It's not going to be interfering with where he's sat. If it's okay, great. If not, we might have to just do another one and move it further back and put it sort of back there a little bit. But yeah, we'll give that a go, see how it is. I've just got the first main hoop in, which is the way that I wanted to try it first, how I'd normally do it, which is tucked right up to the roof line here. But after putting the seat in, I think it is going to be a bit too close. It's not a massive amount of space between it, but well, where your head will be with your helmet on. So I'm going to do another one back here a little bit, just behind the seat, and then hopefully we'll be able to tuck the front leg up here and kind of bring it down there. Hopefully that'll give more space. Like I say, it doesn't really matter that I've made this one, because I can, like I say, that's normally how I do them, so I can keep this one aside, and next time get a 350Z in that doesn't have the seat quite as far back as this one, then I've already got a pre-made main hoop ready for it. So Kai did pop down last night, basically that's why we've got two main hoops in here, just to have a little look, compare them and see what's best. We did have a little play about with the seating position, and I think we will be okay using this top one, which is much preferred. That's the one we're going to go with, which will be sort of the most overhead protection, which is obviously what you want from a roll cage. Obviously you never want to go on the roof, but if you do, you definitely want to be protected. Now that we've made a decision on this, I can make the boxes.
that they're going to sit on. Obviously it's going to trim, we're going to trim the main hoop a little bit at the bottom once we've done the boxes, because they're going to sit up slightly, which means that we can drop it down to weld all the tops. We can get on with doing the boxes. These are going to sit a little bit higher, so obviously the main hoop will need trimming a bit at the bottom, but we'll do that afterwards when we know where it's going to land, to try and keep it nice and tight up at the top. Yeah, do the front boxes, and then we'll do the front legs, windscreen bar, and then with these, because of the shape of the roof, because it's kind of lower at this point here, what we'll do is we'll also do the back stays, and then we can drop it all and basically weld all of the tops, because the problem you'll have is you won't really get in there with it in place as I'd normally do them. So we'll drop all of it, get it all welded up at the tops, and then it can go back in, and then we can start looking at door bars and things. But I'll show you how I do that and how I'll get around the tops and things like that, and then I'll also show you how I get behind the door bars this side, to get a full weld around those. I've got the main hoop tacked in place on the boxes tacked in. Front legs are tacked in. Got the front leg boxes, foot boxes done as well. Well, tacked in. Still need to take them out, fully weld them up. And the windscreen bars in. It's all nice and tight. So marked up. So when I drop it, I clean all that up. And when it goes back in, we'll be able to stitch weld all the way along the top, along the windscreen bar up there. Next thing we will be doing is the back stays, coming down here somewhere. It's like I say, with the roof being lower at the back than it is in the middle, they kind of have this sort of shape. So I'll do that, and then it means I can drop all of it, weld all of the tops all in one, put it back up in place, and then we can do the door bars after that. What I can do now is drop the cage down and get around the tops where I've not been able to weld with it in position, and if I show you sort of up here, obviously I can't get behind there because of the shape of the roof, so I'll drop all that down as one, by basically taking the boxes out. Might need to use some ratchet straps, something just to pull them in. Means I can drop it down, get around the tops, weld all those, and I can go back in place. I might do the diagonal and the X before I drop it down, just so that it's a bit easier for me to get in to weld them. But I'll actually be able to weld them like as it is now anyway, so I don't really need to do that. So we'll decide if we're going to do that, or we're just going to drop it as it is, weld it, and then I can do the X when it's back in place. Right, so we've now dropped the roll cage off the boxes, which means I can got a little bit more space to get in to weld those tops. Obviously this is why it's much easier with the windscreen out, because obviously if the windscreen was in, it'd still be quite tight to get through there, but with the windscreen out, see, loads of space there. Makes it a bit easier for me, and then also makes it a bit easier to do the A-pillar gussets when they go in, and there's no risk of putting too much heat into the A-pillar and potentially cracking the screen from the heat. But yeah, like I say, obviously dropped it off the boxes, so basically just taking the boxes out, which means I can drop the roll cage down to the floor, which gives me a lot more space to get in to get those welds. And then once they're done, it can go back up, weld the boxes up, it can go back up and just tack back in again for now, because I'll have to pull the main hoop in to get around the backs of the door bars to weld those. So that is now the tops of the roll cage all welded up. See in there. And on the front, same on the other side. Obviously it is still quite tight in there, so the welds up at the top might not necessarily always be quite as neat as the ones that are a bit easier to access, but as long as I've got a decent enough 360-degree weld around all of them, then yeah, that's all good. So now what we can do is weld the boxes up, get those back in the car, get the cage back in position, and then either do the X, the diagonals and the X in the rear, or do the door bars. Obviously, like I say, we'll still need to like untack the main hoop to pull the front legs in to be able to get around the outsides of the door bars. So I'll show you that when it comes to it. Right, so what I've done here is, like I said, cut these boxes out, cut the tacks off, remove those, and then ratchet strap across the main hoop, which has pulled the main hoop in, which should give me enough space to get in, to get welds around the back. It is still quite tight, but there should be enough space to be able to get in to get a full weld all the way around. Sometimes it is handy to be able to move the front legs as well, so they're still just tacked in at the moment, same as the back stays, just in case I did need to cut them off and move the cage around a little bit. But for this one I should have enough space just pulling the main hoop in. Door bars now welded to the main hoop, got round the outsides. Like I say, it is still quite tight to get in with the welder, but we've managed to get a full 360-degree weld all the way around, which is what we want. So now this can all go back in place, put the boxes back in, tack it all back together, and then the rest of the door bars we can weld with it all in place, and then the X in the back as well, we can weld all that in place, and then we'll do the rest of it. Kai's roll cage all finished off now, everything's welded. It's a fairly basic 6-point roll cage, but we've got kicked out door bars, got the X in the back stays there, harness bar, some A-pillar gussets around at the front. All done, ready to go. And then it's stitch welded where it touches everywhere, all along the top. The main hoop there, up on the windscreen bar up there as well, so it'll be nice and rigid. And yeah, all done, ready to go. So if you are looking for a quote on a roll cage, give me a message, give me an email, whatever's best for you. I can run through options with you if you're not sure exactly what sort of spec cage you need, what you're going to be using the car for. I'm happy to run through and basically, go through sort of the regs with you and what spec cage you'd need. Something like this is good for any UK drift competition, drift Missouri or things like that. So yeah, we can obviously tailor the cage to suit whatever you're going to be using the car for. Yeah, so just give me a message and we can go through some options.
So as you can see, the car is now in the workshop, and this is not the usual workshop, so we will be addressing that in the next vlog. But car's back from Kewfab. I am well impressed with that cage. Massive thanks to those guys, so make sure you check them out. And you see the next one where we talk about where we are.